it's a personal choice.
Yeah.
You're going and you know it's going to be low oxygen, so here you go. But anyway, we probably should head on over. Both have humps on their backs, and they make a little window on the rock with their mouths touching.
That right there is why you have this right there. Typically San Marzano tomatoes, when they're packed, don't have a lot of citric acid, if any citric acid in them.
Debating if we should just hang here or what. I think we may hang here. I'm gonna dig in.
That's what happens when you marry a overachiever.
So we're just arriving into Colorado Springs, and there is so much to do here. We're going to be busy for this next week. You ready for it?
Well, this is not Colorado Springs, this is Manitou Springs.
Oh, true.
We're heading up to Woodland Park.
Woodland Park,
which
okay.
is like 8,200 feet, so we're at 6,400, so we got a ways to go.
Yeah, we're excited though because we haven't been doing a lot of, hiking or anything because we've of course had other stuff going on, family stuff and all, which was fantastic. But we're excited now to be out and kind of do some exploring because we've never been to this area before, and apparently there's a lot to do, so we'll be busy. Woodland Park is about 20 miles northwest of Colorado Springs. It's a quiet little town, but with close access to Pikes Peak, Manitou Springs, Garden of the Gods, Cripple Creek, and lots of great camping. With so much to see and do, we tried to do it all.
So how do you feel after the hike yesterday?
I feel good, actually. I felt worse last night than I feel today, so that's good.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising just because it really, it was longer than the previous hike that we did, but we didn't start at the elevation or finish at the elevation, but it was still at elevation. So yeah, it was pretty intense, but I feel pretty good. But
for old people.
Yeah, for old people. But we're going to a kind of, I don't want to say this is a bucket list thing, but just an area that I've always wanted to see. I know my mom used to talk about it, God rest her soul, a lot about Garden of the Gods. And so we're going to the Garden of the Gods today.
Had she ever been here?
I think she did, yeah, because she'd come up to Fort Collins many, many years ago with a good friend of hers, and I actually was up here in business and I got a chance to see her up in Fort Collins, but she'd always talked about it, and I think she went to go see it, but we're not hiking it today. Taking it easy.
We're doing the trolley.
We're doing the trolley today, so, we may hike around a little bit if there's some walking area, but we're definitely looking forward to it because it's pretty amazing, but yeah, we're taking the trolley, so don't judge.
Should be interesting, and it's a beautiful day, 77 degrees.
Yeah.
Beautiful, so.
And ask yourself, if you did the hike that we did yesterday, would you be hiking again today? Leave a comment below, because if you're our age, probably not. Maybe unless you're in a lot better shape than we are. So anyway, let's head down to Colorado Springs. We're going to go down the mountain. Well, we didn't finish up our summary of Garden of the Gods yesterday. Great trip, hot day. Had a little medical issue. So nothing to be worried about. Pam just wasn't feeling good. We had to take her to the little doc in the box, and they got her all straightened away. So we're 0 for 2. You have 2. And I have 0, but that could all change.
While we're traveling?
While we're traveling, yeah. So anyway, but today's gonna be an interesting day. So, and maybe today will be the day where I actually get one, because we're going on the Pikes Peak Cog Railway. And the last time I went to 14,000 feet, it didn't end well at all for me.
It did not. And in fact, we were going to buy a bottle or can or whatever of oxygen. Walmart is out of stock, so we're hoping when we get downtown into
well, they say
Manitou Springs, they'll have some.
They say they sell it there. It's probably more expensive.
It'll be worth it for you.
Yeah, but I may look for a dive shop because I may need that much oxygen. So, anyway, this should be really fun. It's a beautiful day. It's actually warm again, but I'm sure it'll be cooler up there. We packed sweatshirts. But let's go down to the Cog Railway. This is better than driving it. That is for sure. So that should be fun.
For you.
Yeah, for me. All right, let's head out.
If anybody's interested in taking this, obviously we have not gotten on yet, so we'll share that as it unfolds. But the tickets we ordered were, and we did this all online, they were $72 each, and we do have reserved seats.
$72?
Plus,
should I pass out now or when I get to the top?
Plus it's $20 to park in the lot that's directly across from the train depot. But I think it's worth it, because otherwise you have to park downtown, pay to park there, take the they do have a free shuttle in the city of Manitou Springs, which is really nice.
You would think they would give you a credit for oxygen deprivation, which we're about to go through.
Hey, it's a personal choice.
Yeah.
You're going and you know it's going to be low oxygen, so.
Made it to the top. It's probably about 20 degrees cooler up here than it is down there.
Well, it was like hot on that train, so that's a good thing.
It's crazy. So a little bit of advice, I guess a pro tip, because we're pros now since we did once. So if you reserve at least the train we had, there's a 2-seat side and a 3-seat side. We were on the 3-seat side, but we were going backwards up, so we'll be going forward down. At least we hope that's the way it is. Hey there, buddy. Dog, and actually big dog. And so from what I can see, the better views are on the 3-seat side until you get to the top, because this would be the 2-seat side here that you see over here.
And my 2 bits of advice would be choose seats opposite of each other right next to the window, and choose a window that opens because it was kind of hot.
Well, yeah. So the car we had, the entrance to the car, we were the first seats in, and those windows don't open. And I got some people over here. They're got some risk takers. And news at 11. Anyway, it's so that would be my advice. And then that seems to face west, so you will get a bit of sun. And it was warm when we got started, but it's cold now. And I'm not sure what these people are doing, but it'll be interesting to find out what their story is. But supposedly they have great donuts here.
Why? Why would you do that?
I don't know. They're not even the Instagram generation. They're like even past our generation.
They're even older than us.
So we're gonna go get some donuts. So what'd you get?
Well, I've heard about these donuts, so I had to get the donuts. They smell good. You want some?
So how did they bake those here? I mean, you gotta, if you look at like the side of a carton for like baking at altitude, did they ever consider baking at 14,115 feet?
Oh, these are pretty good.
Are they airy? That was cool.
That was bad.
All right, another pro tip. They say be on the train by 2:40. They really mean 2:39 because the door's closed.
Yeah. Everybody's here.
So time to go?
It's time to go.
So please go ahead and find your seats.
Yeah.
Very prompt. How you feel?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No lightheadedness,
I don't feel any difference.
hallucinations. Yeah. Okay. We're heading back down.
I just noticed when we were walking around the rocks or going up the stairs, I was out of breath. But that's normal.
Well, we're old, so. All right, heading back down here in a few minutes. We're going to get the sun blasted on us here, but we get good views on the way back. Welcome to another episode of Ken's Cooking. So, we always think about camp food as, grilling out hamburgers or steaks or maybe, getting a smoker and cooking a brisket or pork barbecue or something like that. And we do a lot of that. We don't have a smoker, but we do cook a lot of stuff on our Weber grill. Sometimes you got to change it up a little bit. And, as many of you know, I grew up in New York and, there's something about a Sunday sauce. Now, you typically also associate that with a cooler fall day, and we don't have that, even though we're in Colorado. It's kind of a hot day today, but we cooked up some hot Italian sausage a couple days ago on the grill, and we're going to use that in the sauce that we're about to make, just to kind of spice it up and change it up a little bit instead of just doing, burger, steaks, chicken, hot dogs, those kinds of things. So let me show you what we're doing here. First off, we're going to do this in a crock pot, so it's going to cook for several hours. And what we have is we're going to put some olive oil, some extra virgin olive oil in the crock pot. Now, I've already diced up some of the garlic, and this is going to be pretty garlicky. I did about 4 cloves of garlic, and I'll show you about how many tomatoes we're going to use. So that's probably about maybe a tablespoon of olive oil. Key thing about tomatoes, and some people may debate this, but I think it's proven. This is not necessarily one of the better brands, but it's one that we picked up. But the key thing you see here is San Marzano, and typically San Marzano tomatoes, when they're packed, don't have a lot of citric acid, if any citric acid in them, and that really kind of helps with the tartness and keeping that a little bit sweeter. Now we are going to add something in here that is controversial as well to a lot of Italians, but it's very little, just again to maybe take some more of that tartness out. So we've got that, and in the crock pot, I'm going to turn this on high. Now it's going to take a while for this garlic to get going. We're just going to really sweat it. So let's let that go and get going, and we'll come back and then we'll show you what else we had in there. Okay, got to be kind of careful with this because it can splatter a little bit, so we'll get the lid off of the crock pot, and we'll get these in here just ever so gently. I'm going to use a spoon to kind of help here a little bit. Get those in there. And I did spill a little bit on there. I'll have to get a paper towel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently kind of just cut these up a little bit. You got to be careful because of the the innards of the crock pot itself. But I'm just going to just kind of cutting these up a little bit. You don't have to cut them into small pieces because, like I said, they'll actually break down. So got those down, cut a little bit. And again, the longer this cooks, the more they will actually break down. In the past, you know, when I made sauce, and even when my mom made sauce as a kid, I mean, it would cook all day. I'd wake up in the morning and I would smell garlic and onions cooking. Now, I stopped using onions in my sauce because I got it from a guy that we used to go to, an Italian restaurant in the town we used to live in. And he had just, you know, outstanding sauce. And Mom, God bless you, loved your sauce as well. But Joe Covino's in Plano, Texas, just had a great sauce. And he always said, don't use onions. And now again, that's a personal choice. I think it can actually make it bitter. So we got those cut up like that, and let's get our other spices. So first off, we definitely need some salt, so we're going to salt that. Now, I'm not a big person on measuring. I kind of go with, you know, one experience and how I feel about it. So you've got that. You've got black pepper right here. So we're going to put some of that black pepper. And again, you're always going to taste this as you cook it to see how that does. Now, Pam is not a big fan of oregano. I like oregano. I put a little bit in. Normally, I'd probably put more, but because she's not a big fan of that, there's about probably a half a teaspoon. And then, obviously, you've got to have basil as well. Now, if you can do fresh herbs on your sauce, more power to you, and that's awesome. So the same thing with the basil. We're going to put about maybe a tablespoon in there. Maybe a little bit more, so that's always good. Now, because we're putting hot sausage in, I'm not going to use crushed red pepper. I normally would do that as well, just because I like it a little bit spicy. And those of you that, you know, eat Italian food, and if you ever had an arrabbiata sauce, it's really spicy. I don't like, sometimes I like it that spicy, but sometimes I just like a little bite. But because we're putting hot sausage in, then we're not going to need to do that. Now, this is where the controversy comes in. As I mentioned before, the San Marzano tomatoes don't have citric acid in them, so you definitely don't get that tartness out of them. However, I still will put a pinch of sugar in. Maybe in this case, it's just that's 1 can of tomatoes. I'm just going to put a pinch of sugar in there, and I probably shouldn't use my fingers, but my spoon's dirty, and I don't want to go inside and get another one. And that just, again, takes some of the bitterness out. Just be careful you don't over sugar it, because you'll basically ruin your sauce. And then we're going to just let that cook and simmer in the crock pot, probably 3 hours. If I was cooking it on the stove, I mean, literally, I'd probably cook it for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. I like that. I like my sauce a little bit more fresh like that. And again, my mom used to cook it way down, but she used to put a ton of meat in there. And but that was a beautiful thing to smell that and just have, you know, you'd have meatballs and sausage. She'd even put pork chops in there, and then she'd make berjol, which is rolled up flank steak, and a bunch of other spices. We're going to put the hot Italian sausage in there. So let's stir this up, and then we're going to come back to this in probably, I don't know, an hour, just see how it's cooking, and make sure it is cooking down a little bit. Now, because you're using whole tomatoes, you might want to use a little bit of tomato paste in there to thicken it up, just a little bit, but you'd still have the chunks of tomatoes in there. So let's let that cook down, and probably in about an hour or so, when it gets good and warm, we'll put the already cooked on the grill hot Italian sausage in, and that's going to add that pork flavor, and that's going to add some spice back into it as well. So we'll see you back here in about an hour. As you can see, that's good and boiling now, and you want to be careful you don't overdo it. Now, the crock pot, it's not going to burn it, where if you cooked it in a regular pot, by getting it that hot, you might actually start to burn it on the bottom. It doesn't do that, but we are going to turn it down a little bit. But we are going to add our sausage. So as I mentioned before, I went ahead and grilled this on the grill, and got that all ready to go. So that's all cooked, so it's not going to cook in the sauce. One thing that we will also add in here, and I didn't have this before, Pam just got back from the store, is some tomato paste, and that will thicken it up. I don't like a real thick sauce, but when you use the whole tomatoes, the sauce tends to be a little bit thinner because you do get the chunks of tomatoes, and so I will use a little bit of tomato paste, and I like getting it in the tube, not in the can, because this is reusable. It has to be refrigerated, which is always a problem with our small camper amount of refrigeration space. But if you buy the small cans, you pretty much have to use the whole thing, and that's it if you're making a big sauce. So we're going to go ahead and put the sausage in, let that cook a while, and then we're going to add just a little bit of paste to kind of thicken that up. So let's get going with that. Okay, we're going to add some tomato paste here, and I would use probably in here, I'm going to say maybe a tablespoon, or again, I kind of go by feel. It's not really a recipe thing. And it's probably 2 tablespoons that I put in there. We're just going to let this cook for another hour on low or so. And again, if we were cooking this on the stove, it wouldn't have to cook that long. But since we're cooking on the crock pot, then we're going to just let that cook low and slow for the next hour or so. Let those sausages impart their flavor into this. We normally, we're not necessarily big sausage eaters, more meatballs. When Pam makes meatballs, and she makes great meatballs, by the way, she uses a pound of ground beef, a pound of pork, and a pound of veal. And you know, in the small RV, that's just a lot of meat to carry around. So we just picked up a package of sausages, and we'll just do it with that. So let's let that cook down, and then we'll show you the finished product of not only the sauce, but then the pasta that we're going to put that on as well for dinner tonight. So we'll see you there.
I'm gonna dig in. Are you ready?
So that's the finished product. Not too bad. Like I said, just crock pot sauce, tomato sauce. Some people call it gravy. That's a whole nother thing. We're not going to get into that debate. But yeah, just a little bit different than cooking outside all the time. But we are going to dig in, so bon appetito. Coming up on the Roadsmiths, part 2 of Gods and Peaks.
Debating if we should just hang here or what. I think we may hang here.
We'll keep an eye out if you keep an eye out. But yeah, Pikes Peak is massive. It's just so massive.